Hello, and welcome to the No Wrong Notes podcast, a show hosted by me, Veronica Kokos, holistic voice teacher and singer just like you. Grab a cup of tea, relax, and sit back as we discuss all things singing technique, mindset tips, and more so you can show up as the most confident and creative singer you can be. All right, yay! I am here with Gemma Parmar, the phenomenal meditation and spiritual mentor, yoga teacher, and former coworker at Texas State.
Yes, back in the day.
Back in the day. I'm so glad to have you here today to chat about authenticity, fearlessness, and liberation.
Mm.
But before we get into all of those topics, I would love for you to introduce yourself to the listeners, explaining who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are in your career today.
Yeah, well, I'm first so grateful and feel so much honor being here on your podcast. I really love watching your journey. And since we've been in college together, it's just really beautiful to stay connected. So thank you for asking me on. Um, for y'all that are listening, my name is Gemma. I am a meditation and spiritual mentor. And yeah, my story is quite a big story in where I have arrived today. And I'm really thankful for this opportunity to chat because I've been in kind of a change in my spiritual journey. And it's been interesting to kind of integrate thinking about what I'm going to share on the podcast today. And just for a little bit of background, I started my journey back in 2018 into spirituality. I have always been in the mentorship role. You and I were peer mentors together. So that was kind of my first really entrance into an official mentor role. I have always been kind of in that role from like dance team and going for leadership positions at school. But the mentor role was the first time I ever got one-on-one with students, and I really enjoyed that. And for those that don't know, back at Texas State, they have this peer mentor program for first-year students, and that was something where we connect socially, financially, academically with students and just kind of connect on their experience at college and how is it going? Is it going great? Is it not going great? And then, life went on. I did a couple things, graduated. And when I moved to Austin, I found a yoga studio. And I missed being in a classroom environment and I really just needed relaxation. So I went to this candlelight yoga class once a week. And it was just life changing in the sense of like, I finally found a place I could just take a deep breath. And it was like, oh, something's here, something's deeper. And being in Austin, there's like a plethora of yoga studios. So I decided I'm going to do my teacher training, just for fun. I had a 9 to 5 job, and that was something, I did on the outside. And then it just grew from there. There's so many rabbit holes in the healing arts journey. And that really took, just a big part of my life in the transition of 2020 was really when I was in my trainings. And I opened my business in 2020, which is a mentor and events business where I help people, specifically women, learn emotional freedom. And that's kind of what, you go into yoga thinking you're going to do the poses, and then you learn about the philosophy, you learn about the way of life, and then you integrate it into your own life. And it really provides for this beautiful foundation to live in like a free way. And I just like couldn't get enough of it. So my journey really started from this kind of, I need something else in life to kind of feel something, because I was in a place where I wasn't really feeling a lot. So that kind of, every time I went to class, just it picked me up a little bit and it gave me a new insight. And I really just wanted to share that with other people. So now I have, courses that I'm working on them getting self-paced so that you can just come and join and really have this experience where you're learning for yourself. I think one of my biggest philosophies throughout all the learning has been, it's about you. This is your spiritual journey, and I'm not here to give you a blueprint. I'm here to help you find your own blueprint. So my business is really just on the basis of what is going to set you free and how can we find tools that help you with that.
I love that. I love that too. That kind of approach of like, self-paced, kind of being your own guru almost, where it's kind of like taking, like, obviously you're providing these tools and you're offering up these tools kind of as a guide, but also being able to dig into that on your own, I think is really important and really special, right? Kind of pivoting a little bit here. Obviously, a lot of singers listen to this podcast, and something that I see often in the studio is singers struggling to really show up authentically on stage and maybe even off. And I think that sometimes people, I mean, a lot of people, not just singers, are afraid of being seen, like truly seen. And that can be a real block to true creative expression. What would you say to someone who struggles to show up fully as themselves on stage, off stage, etc.?
Yeah, I would invite this person to play and be curious because it is terrifying to be authentic and to be seen, but yet it is so deep in our human nature to want to be seen, to have that desire. And so I think we get to play and think about it as more of this experience of discovery rather than like, I have to be my authentic, true, honest, amazing best self. I think we put a lot of pressure on what that authenticity can look like, that we're making it a project rather than just letting it be natural. So it's messy, it's awkward, it's cringy, and being authentic means being all of the things that humanity brings to us. And we can't push out the things that we don't want to be. Authenticity is being all the things. So if we can take an attitude of curiosity and playfulness towards that, I think it adds just a little bit of levity to the situation. You know, those high pressure situations where you are performing, right? So I grew up in dance, so I have a level of like being in the artistic world of performance. There is a level of I got to show up a certain way, right? And there's an intention and there's, maybe lots of practice, lots of rehearsal. And how do I even add or infuse my authenticity into that performance? And so it's really about discovering, I think, the ways that you feel most comfortable, and then the tools that give you the strength when you find yourself uncomfortable. And I really find the playfulness is just the way to add pleasure to the practice, because if you're not doing it for joy, then there's going to be some tension in there. There's going to be some stress. So for me, my advice towards authenticity is to just try it out. If it doesn't work, that's okay. You can move on to the next thing. And then bits and pieces along the way, you're going to find who you are. And we often talk about life is a spiral, or life is like this downward spiral. But if you think
Yes.
about the journey as like an upward spiral, that like every piece that you learn about yourself is just connecting you up and up and up, and allowing for a new perspective on maybe the same lesson. Like, I think I've learned the lesson of boundaries a million times, but you learn it from a different lens every time you go through something. So allowing yourself to walk up the spiral and just know that every situation is adding to your toolbox.
I love that image of the spiral. I think maybe I heard that from like one of Ram Dass's talks or something like that, and that image has always stuck with me. And I think when it comes to like the arts, for example, whether you're a dancer or singer, actor, you know, you're going to have performances that are maybe not what you want them to be. Maybe you hit a wrong note or you get very, very nervous and kind of clam up.
Mhm.
But I think it's there's something important there of like understanding that even that experience is helping us kind of go up the spiral, right? Where we're kind of learning these things and integrating them. So I love that image. It is beautiful. Um, Going off more of this message of fearlessness and liberation and how you help others achieve that in their own lives. Of course, I think it's easy to talk about these topics, and a harder thing to practice it consistently in
Mm.
daily life amidst work and school obligations. How would you recommend listeners to practice showing up fearlessly in their practical lives, particularly when they're faced with limiting beliefs?
Mm.
Because, like I said, it's one thing to kind of talk about it, but I think people are kind of like, well, what does that look like in practice, in daily life?
Yeah, I love this question because I'm all about integrating your mindfulness practice into your life. It's not about just sitting on your cushion and being okay to be where you are there, but how can you infuse that when you're in a relationship or when you're at work with your coworkers, taking that into your life. And being able to face fearlessness, I literally recommend this book to everyone that I meet. It's called Comfortable with Uncertainty, and it's by Pema Chodron. Yeah, so
Yes, I read that last year. That's why I was like, oh my gosh, yes, love that book. So
okay,
good.
yeah, so she's a Buddhist nun and she's sweet as can be and really puts in beautiful words and very articulate for it's very accessible to understand the Buddhist practices by the way she teaches. And this book is like 108 excerpts from all of her other books. So you just open to a page and it's a one-page read. And it really gives just a very concise way of looking at the world, a way to face fearlessness, how to cultivate that in yourself. And I think that's where we get things wrong is that we want to be fearless, but we don't really want to cultivate it. We don't want to sit there and grind our gears and learn how to feel the uncomfortable feelings so that we can be fearless. We just want to have the end result. So, my invitation would be to take a step back, really acknowledge those fears, and be okay being fearful, right? It's not about getting rid of the fear. It's about how can I welcome it along the journey because I know it's a part of life. So that fearlessness is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to sit with it and say, I am more than that. So that's something I physically read that book almost weekly and I use it in all my meditation classes because it's really just a place where I can find myself. And we talked about the beginning of the podcast, you are your own guru, but there's also teachers out there. There's also scripture out there that can really help you. And the biggest thing in Buddhism is read the scriptures, learn from the teachers, and then wrestle with your own thoughts. Find your own way in all of it. So it's that place of self-discovery, which is, again, a playful place for us to be. And fear is, if we can recognize that it's going to be there, that kind of pops the pressure a little bit.
Yes, that kind of like sitting in discomfort. And I remember I also read When Things Fall Apart last year,
Mm.
which I loved as well. And I feel like a lot of her writings kind of center around that. It's kind of like sitting in discomfort and just kind of letting yourself be okay with the fear being there. That's why I love like things like breath work because it really forces you into that space of like being uncomfy and finding some sort of equanimity in there, right?
Yeah.
So I love that because I do think that sometimes we're like, we need the end result. I want to feel fearless. I want to feel confident on stage or as a singer. And it's like, yes, and like maybe the way into that might be a path that you wouldn't even expect. Because I think that we talk a lot about kind of coping mechanisms, and obviously having those mechanisms is really helpful. But also understanding that, like I tell my students all the time, like, we're not working to get rid of anxiety. We're working with it, understanding that it's probably going to be there when you're about to step on stage. But how can you still let it kind of be there and still, perform and convey what it is that you're trying to say? So, digging in a little bit more to the emotional side of things, I sometimes see you on Instagram encouraging others to feel and express the fullness of their emotions, speaking of uncomfy things.
Mhm.
However, I sometimes come across students who really don't know how to get in touch with their emotions. And when I ask them what they're feeling, either physically or emotionally, and obviously this might touch upon like some traumatic aspects as well, so understanding that, but when I ask them what they're feeling, and I try to be conscious of that, they really don't know. How would you advise someone who's really doesn't know where to start when it comes to feeling and releasing their emotions?
Yeah. Well, we could talk about this for hours, but couple things I want to make a point on. First, when you were talking about, anxiety is going to be there, how do we work with it? If you think about how much energy anxiety is, if you are someone who has walked through this world, from my own experience, I've walked through the world with immense anxiety and I've taken medication for it, I've gone to therapy for it. If you think about the energy in your body, it's big, it's intense. And something I learned from you, I took voice lessons from Veronica. So I have some sort of connection with singing. I don't consider myself like a beautiful singer, but I consider myself a singer. Like absolutely, I'm probably, dogging on myself on that, but I, love using my voice. That is something that's very true to me. And you help me like, really learn what that's like. And so talking about energy, you showed me, and I'm sorry if I butchered this the way that you teach it, but it's direction, intention, and connection with your voice. And I really like to pull that in when I'm teaching meditation and Kundalini classes with people who are learning how to visualize where to put their energy. Is like find the intention. Okay, my intention is I've got big anxiety, it's intense, and I want to move it. So, where are you going to direct that big energy? And what is that going to connect you to? So, you talk about it in the way of like your vocal cords and where you're moving your breath and stuff. But for me, it really connected this feel something, move that, use that energy that's in your body and put it somewhere. Um, so I don't know if you want to say something on that, but
No, I think that's so cool. And I think one thing that is, I feel like, important in talking about these sorts of things, when it comes to feeling like closed off in terms of feeling like you can't express your emotions. I think a lot of times it's important that safety is also involved. Like finding also some safety in the body, I think is important, especially for people that might have experienced like trauma, I think, because I think that that can be a reason why someone might feel uncomfortable expressing their emotions and whatnot. So I think like having some safety, of course, in mind. But it's like, where do you go beyond that? Like, what happens after you find that safe space in yourself? It's like, okay, let's get into some of this stuff. And I really love that idea because, as someone who, I think I probably told you this, like, I've got a lot of air in my birth chart. So, like, a
mm,
lot of my, I've got so much going on up here.
mhm.
And, so I am always consciously trying to think like where can I direct this energy in the body? Like where can I channel some of this? So I love that you bring that up. Did you have more to speak on that?
Yeah, so that was kind of the first part is like, all right, if you're the type of person that feels a lot and it's intense, and then you like are trying to escape that intensity, instead of, numbing out or, pushing it to the side, feel it to direct it. Place an intention of like it's moving here. This fuel, I often teach my clients that anger starts revolutions. People take these angry, hurtful feelings and they make the world a better place. They make an impact. And so these big energies can be taken and directed in a certain way to where we can feel, process, and alchemize them. So for this person who doesn't have the intensity, is actually more on the numb side and maybe, doesn't have the language to feel, I would recommend looking at a feeling or emotions wheel and then learning different words for different emotions because sometimes we're just not taught that. We're taught happy, sad, mad, bad, but there's a plethora of types of emotions that the human body is capable of feeling. And sometimes we just don't have that verbiage. So I think that could be really helpful. They make cute little pillows with it. So it can be an emotional support pillow that's like sweet and cozy for you. So it doesn't have to be like you're studying a wheel of emotions, right? There's different ways to enjoy that. And then I think we are in a world where it feels impossible to slow down. Everyone is running around and trying to take care of themselves, take care of their family, make sure their businesses run right. Like there is always something to do. And I find if you are in a life, because I've personally gone through this, where you are constantly in the mode of doing, it's really hard to feel and process all that you're doing. And so it can be very frightening and uncomfortable to finally stop and slow down. I have a lot of students that'll come to my yin classes and they take an hour and we do maybe 4 or 5 postures and they're restorative. We relax, we breathe, and then they cry. And they've just never felt that much in their life because they've never given themselves a chance to just slow down and just be with whatever is there. And that's intense if you've never done that ever in your life. It's like
Yeah.
if I've never just taken a beat to breathe and relax,
Mm.
it's a lot. So you start to find in your journey, man, the more I slow down, the more I feel because feeling starts from this subtle energy. And when you look at, energy in the body, it's this intangible thing. You can map it. Different cultures around the world have mapped it as the chakra system or the meridian system in Chinese traditional medicine. But when you go internally to feel, it's not the words that you're feeling, it's the sensations. And sometimes sensations are really big, but it's actually the smaller sensations that can give us the deeper insights, I feel. And I take a personal stance on this. A lot of the spiritual world right now, I think it is really trendy to go into catharsis, to teach yourself how to feel and to like really blast yourself open. And I've done this before and I totally believe behind it. Like, a lot of people will do throat chakra work to release their voice so that they can have more power or more mobility from it. And while I feel there's a time and a place for it, I feel that the subtle world, like moving in more slow, more gentle, and not having to really bring up like intensity, you can learn to feel at a level that feels accessible. So if you've ever been in that place of life where you're like, all right, I'm going to heal, I'm going to do this. And then you just feel like overwhelmed with emotion, taken back. How do I process all of this? How does anyone move through the world, go to work to do this? I feel when you take bite-sized pieces, when you're able to open up, like I like to give the analogy of like opening like a flower in rain. Like you're just, what am I feeling right here, right now? I don't have to figure it all out, but right now. So for those people who are learning to feel, it's okay to learn to feel one thing. You don't have to learn all the things at once.
Yeah, definitely. Because I do feel like it can be overwhelming too if this is still kind of territory that doesn't feel comfortable, right? That it's like, you don't have to feel it all at once. You don't have to process everything all at once because it's just, there's a lot there, right?
Mhm.
So I really love that. As a spiritual mentor, part of your work involves the concept of dharma. Can you speak to what the concept of dharma is and why it's important, and how might singers practice their own dharma on stage and off?
Yeah. Dharma is such a sweet word to me, and my coaching business is Dharma with Gemma. And I operate under Liberate Your Energy. But Dharma to me is this path of life that we choose. I think trendy, it's often translated to purpose, but I think in the West, we can really confuse that with career and job. And so to take out that confusion, I like to offer that Dharma is really true nature. It is your true essence of who you are. If you could strip back the limiting beliefs and the different constructs that you have learned throughout your life, what is just the essence of your soul? That is you. And a lot of people I meet, they say, I just want to help people, or I just want to share this. And we think we have to do it with a paycheck. And we think we have to do it to make an impact rather than for joy or for sharing. And I like to invite people who think about Dharma as more of a project into something as just more of a path of living. Because if you said that your Dharma was to help people, think about how many people you helped in one day. Did you say hi to someone? Did you, say something like you like their shirt? You never know. Like when you get that compliment from someone, you're like, oh, wow, that helped my soul a little bit. Right? You can be in your Dharma not through your career. And I think I'm really passionate about telling people that you can live and serve your true essence by washing your dishes or going for a walk with a friend. There are so many different ways to be truly you. And that goes back to the authenticity piece that we talked about, is like learning to say, hey, is this truly me right now? Am I acting as myself, or is there another voice in my head? Is there someone saying I should act like this instead of that? And that's another playful curiosity place of where we can say, is this truly me? Is this something I believe in? And then that's where you get the choice to stand in. But Dharma to me is this continual path that shifts and changes. Some people are born with it just in their soul. They know exactly what to do. I really feel like I am one of those people. I have always felt like connected to teaching and education and mentorship. And I feel like every role I've played in my life, I've been able to exude those qualities. And so with Dharma for singers, I would say go to places that help you like liven those qualities inside of you that feel true to you. Like if you're a jazz singer, why are you going to a bunch of metal shows or whatever like that? You know
Well,
what I
it's like, I
mean?
mean, it's like on one hand, it's like you could broaden your horizons, but I like what you were saying about like with people that want to help others. For example, if someone is an artist and wants to be creative, it's like there are many ways to do that, right? In daily life. I mean, I think that we think that, oh, it has to be confined to this thing and I have to just study jazz or I have to consume all these things, right? When it's like, it's your life, it's your dharma. What feels good to you, right? I mean, and especially in the arts, it's like, well, if you want to be creative and that is like your dharma, it's like, I want to create, for example.
Mhm.
It's like we're creating stuff all day long. We're like, I created lunch earlier. I know that's like
Mm.
really silly, but it's like I made this meal for me and my partner, and it's like, um, I think that I really appreciate that idea of like it doesn't just have to be this one thing and it has to be your job, but it can be all these other things too.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
but
I don't think about myself as a musician, but like I sing in front of my class. Like I have that confidence to just like, we're singing together. My voice might crack, but like we are here and we're creating sound together. And that's so cool. I never really grew up singing with other people or creating with other people. So inviting myself to experience my Dharma through other people as well can be like, that, oh, wait, I do want to be here. I do want to share that.
yes, yes, that is so beautiful. Well, before we kind of wrap things up here, I would love to move into some rapid fire questions.
Okay, let's go.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Yes, team coffee. Do you know your sun, moon, and rising signs?
So in Western, I'm an Aries sun, Libra moon, and Sagittarius rising. In Vedic, I'm Pisces sun, Virgo moon, and Scorpio rising. As I get older, I feel a little bit more of my Pisces, Virgo, and Scorpio energy. So
Nice.
really just
Okay.
playing with that.
Yeah, that is super cool. I feel like with Vedic, all of my signs were like one before my
Huh.
Western signs,
Yeah.
which would maybe like a Capricorn sun, like Virgo moon, which I don't necessarily, I don't know that I identify with it as much, but I appreciate the perspective of like maybe as I get older, you know, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What is your favorite way to relieve anxiety and stress?
To eat food, laugh, and dance.
Nice. Okay, that's cool. That's really cool. What is the last TV show that you binged or watched?
Oh my gosh. I want to say Killing Eve, but I'm going to throw my boyfriend under the bus. He stole the show from me and like watched all the episodes without me. So I totally wanted to binge it, but I couldn't because he already did it. So I'm going to say Peaky Blinders because I
Oh,
rewatched it and I just
nice.
love that show.
Okay, cool. Very cool. If you could eat one dish for the rest of your life or one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Mm. I think it would be steak, mac and cheese, and a salad. Just
What a Texan thing to say.
yeah.
Steak. I love that. That's so cool. I for me, I love Penang curry. I don't know if you
Oh
know.
yeah.
I literally, I order that probably like once a week. It's so bad. I'm like, why am I so? I just cannot get enough of it.
Love curry. Yeah, my second will probably be a lamb curry
Oh
that my
yeah,
mom makes specifically,
yes,
but yeah.
so good. What's a song that is stuck in your head right now?
Oh, a song that is stuck in my head. Of course, I'm blanking. But
Or even
there's
a
a
song. Oh,
song,
sorry, go ahead.
Every Time You Go. It's like an EDM song. I forget
Oh,
what
nice.
it is.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just the voice that goes for it. It's like a sultry, low voice. I'm really into like the kind of not full like emotional emo sound, but just like the dark, sultry voices right now
Okay.
that are popping up. It feels like moody energy.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that. Well, Gemma, it has been so fun talking to you about all these things that I enjoy thinking about, and it's really cool to hear someone else talk about them and just kind of bounce ideas off of each other. I really enjoyed chatting with you, and thank you so much for coming on the No Wrong Notes podcast.
Thank you so much, Veronica. I really appreciate this. And anyone that is listening, feel free to DM me on Instagram at Liberate Your Energy. And I'm happy to dive in deeper about any of these topics so that you can step into a fearless, more joyful way of living.
Yay!